Nice drum going on there. I've been slouching like all day because of this laptop.
Yeah, what's going on over there? It's like a drum circle.
All right, we're rolling. Everything's going good? Sound good? Hello, testing 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, we're here.
All right, welcome everybody to another episode of Cinedome's Cinephiliac podcast. I'm your co-host, Daniel Scott DeJess, and to the left of me, as always,
AK.
Founder of Kiro Pictures. AK, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Excited to be here again.
Again? Oh my gosh, that's crazy. It's almost like we never left. Hey, you know we got a cool guest on today?
We do?
Yes, we do.
Who is it this time?
Everyone, please give a standing ovation to the wonderful Mandy Mills.
Woo!
Mandy, how you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. This is so cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It is. Thanks for joining us today. Hey, AK, did you know that Mandy is a writer, producer, and actor on 2 shorts that both of them got accepted into festivals? Is that correct?
Yeah. Wings just completed the festival circuit last year. And then Gloss is still going through. We just were at Dunedin this past weekend, so still have a few more Florida ones on the docket that I'm hoping to get into. So, but yeah, it's still going through festivals.
Awesome. Well, we'll dive into those a little bit later. But we first just want to ask, how did you get started in this industry? You know, what inspired you, brought you to it?
Yeah, I was an athlete in high school, so I played volleyball year-round, I played sports year-round, but I always wanted to do acting, and my senior year of high school, my coach was like, you know, you're 5'4", you're probably not going to play in college.
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what, you're right, why don't I do something that I actually want to do this year? And I didn't come up through the ranks in high school theater, so I didn't, get a lead part or anything. But my best friend and I, it was 4 of us, we all auditioned for Beauty and the Beast, and we were in the chorus, and we were all inanimate objects, but also the townspeople. So it was really fun, and just running around backstage, and from then, I sort of did the thing that you're supposed to do when you grow up in the Midwest, which is you go to college and you do everything in high school to go to college. So I did that, and I went for the first year. I went to CSU Fort Collins. Don't regret it. I met my best friend in the world there. But then I was like, I really want to move to New York and go to acting school. And so I moved to New York and kind of just took off from there. I lived in New York for a little bit. Then I moved to LA for a few years, and then I sort of quit acting because I just wasn't really inspired by the scene in Los Angeles. So
Do better.
my best friend and I went backpacking through Europe for about 6 months, and then I decided, if I really want to be in this industry, I need to find the things and the pieces of art that inspire me. So I watched a play in LA. It was a traveling company, and it was experimental theater. They're based in Soho. They're called the Wooster Group. And I was like, I don't know what they're doing, but I was so inspired by what I saw that I was like, you know what? I'm in Europe right now. I'm going to, air quotes, cut back through New York on my way back to Los Angeles. Can I please, come and work with you? And they had this 6-month minimum internship. But I was like, if I'm there, 2 or 3 days a week, could I be there for the 3 months? And so I interviewed, and they approved me. And the working artists that they have there, Liz LeCompte, who's their creative director, is amazing to watch as a director. And Kate Volk, I was so blown away by. They had guest artists like Frances McDormand and Maura Tierney coming in. Willem Dafoe was an original member. So, wow. You kind of go through Los Angeles and auditioning for these parts that you're just super uninspired by, to watching these artists like Frances McDormand, who works in a way that I had never seen before. And so that kind of reignited my hope for the industry, which kind of kicked off writing, because I was like, if I can't be getting the opportunities to audition for things that I want to be working on, then I need to write them. So that sort of kicked off the writing journey, and then just, I don't know, making my own projects from there.
I think you're touching on something that I've seen personally with a lot of friends of mine that have fallen out of the industry, and it's a lot of times it's lack of opportunity, or it's a lack of, inspiration. The biggest hurdle, for me has like always been, how do I stay continually invested and inspired, and I think something that really helped me along the years was realizing it's not about people, it's about stories. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes you can get very caught up into, what comparing yourself, like, oh, this person's working on that or whatever here. Like, am I not fitting in? Am I not clicking with certain people, and then, or at least for me, I went through like that whole thing, and I realized like, this is just about like, I just, I got into this because I just like making movies, but I have, I did very much the same thing as you, where it was like, go to high school, do all this extracurricular theater stuff so I could go to a college. And with the exception of one person in my year within the film program, everyone else is out. Mm-hmm. I don't know anyone else that's still a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And so it's,
well, it's so easy to get uninspired. And I think when you're very young in the industry, you put a lot of weight on other people, right? So especially as an actor, agents are the gatekeepers, or that's the mindset. So if you don't have an agent, then, oh, sorry, you're not going to work. But, I think there's a lot of opportunity that you can get on your own. But when you don't have that in the beginning, you become very uninspired because you are, auditioning for these roles that
you want more.
You do want mm-hmm. more, which is why you have to, I got into this industry because I am a storyteller. And so you have to keep finding the stories that constantly inspire you, because it's very easy to get run down and sort of get swept up into the rose-colored glasses that is Hollywood. Mm-hmm. And people lose sight of that, which is why, I think it's great that we're in a time that there is so much content. But it's also, you don't see these incredibly, it's harder to find something that's very, very, very well executed and inspiring. I hate to keep using the same word, but it's inspiring because there's so much stuff out there right now.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you look at some movies and it's just, it's content, mm-hmm. right? And then you look at other films and they're art.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw the most recent Pinochio from
Disney.
Yeah. Oh man, I haven't seen it yet.
That was
great. I haven't seen it either.
That was great.
No, sir. You're thinking about the good one, which was Guillermo. Wow, I can't even say his name right.
Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, GDT. Yeah, his on Netflix. Yeah, dark but spicy and good. I'm talking about the. You talk about content. The live action Pinocchio.
There's a new one
from Disney. There was 3 Pinocchios this past year. If you guys did not know.
There's a Pinocchio live action.
Yeah, with Tom Hanks, but basically it's him on green screen the entire time. Huh. It's rough looking.
Interesting.
But anyway, if you watch that, that's the definition of content that we're talking about versus, I think, GDT.
Guillermo del Toro, I love him.
But I think those are the 2 differences of taking something, right, like Pinocchio, and doing something of content and something that's actually might be inspire it. And wow. You've been saying it
inspiring. Be inspired.
Yeah, and then obviously there's a fun one from Russia. If you guys didn't know, there's a Pinocchio that was like a Russian Pinocchio called Pinocchio: A True Story.
I watched that one.
You watched that one with what's his name, Pauly Shore as the voice. Anyway, if you haven't watched that, guys, I recommend you if you want to have like a fun.
There's a Pinocchio saga. We should definitely.
Ride. We're gonna have to watch
we should
have
a
to back.
We'll have to have a movie night.
That would be an experience. Anyway, sorry to tangent there a little bit, but
Pinocchio.
But yeah, those 2 especially, between the Disney live action one that came out and the GDT one on Netflix, I think is a very, very good.
That's a good example of content versus, art.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, everyone gets into the industry for different reasons.
Yeah.
So not everyone is invested into, for me, like I'm one of the many that I was swept up by Spielberg, so it's like, this is the magic of cinema. And so, that's something I aspire to in all my films. But I have filmmakers where, they're into slasher films. They don't want it mad. They just want just I don't know. There's maybe some dark part of them that wants to do those things.
I think everybody has a dark part of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as I've gotten older, I think I started out and it was like, oh, you're the girl next door. You're the girl next door.
Yeah.
Which is why you go in for these, I hate to say basic, but roles that are, again, uninspired sometimes. And then as I've gotten older, I'm like, man, I really like the really fucked up. Oh shoot, are we allowed to cuss on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Say it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the really fucked up stuff. I mean, the grittier, the better for me. I love playing that stuff now.
Has that been? I mean, you like you said, you jumped around the different film. the LA environment and the New York environment, and obviously, like we all know, like the difficulty of good, well-written women roles.
Yeah.
Has that been? Have you seen that difficulty? Because we hear about it, and obviously we see it at times when it comes to float. But for you yourself in that experience, has that been, like you kind of mentioned, the girl next door roles?
Yeah.
Has that kind of been?
Yeah, I've definitely experienced that, and whether it's for, and I don't disagree that there is a strong lack of strong women roles.
Yeah.
I think at all levels, if you're an A-lister, it's just as difficult as if you're sort of a nobody. I think maybe the difference is, again, mine just might be for lack of opportunity. When I was first starting out, that, you're not going to go in for a series regular role when you have like 2 credits on your resume. So you're not going to be playing those strong female roles that are the series regulars, that are sort of leading the brigade. But I do think that it's gotten better. I think it's New York is so much about the artistry, which is why it's such a strong theater town, because they really take training seriously in New York. And not that they don't in LA, that's just my experience from living in New York and the city that I prefer. But, there's very strong talent in New York, and I think they put a lot of basis on an emphasis on training. And
Are you East Coast, West Coast? What side are you?
Ooh, geez.
I got jumped.
Like if it's just,
I got jumped in a bar.
Just New York versus LA.
I got jumped in a bar for repping East Side.
Out west, like not you weren't East Side when that happened.
No. So this is true
You
story.
were in New York repping East Side. They were like, screw you, East Side.
This isn't this is in Wilmington, North Carolina. I didn't know this.
So you were East Side.
Yeah, I was East Side, always been. And I was in a bar. I didn't know this had to do with a girl. But there was talking to a girl. Anyways, her boyfriend didn't like it, and then he came over and we started talking about filmmaking. And he's like, "Who do you think's better?" I was like, he's like, "Who do you think makes better movies?" And I was like, "Scorsese all day, East Side, East Side." And I got punched in the face, and then I got jumped. Little did he know I was an MMA fighter at that time. So,
sorry, the best bit about that is that he comes up to you because you're talking to his girl, and he's just like, "Oh, you're a filmmaker?"
Yeah.
So you don't get punched for talking to his girl. You're like, Scorsese all day, and he's like, "Nah,
no."
Have you had anything like that?
It gets violent.
I hope you haven't gotten punched in the face.
I haven't been punched in the face for that, but I think it's kind of a strong, it's kind of a strong, like, down the middle. Like, are you LA or are you New York? There's very strong-minded. You know.
This is Tupac versus Biggie.
Unfortunately,
style.
I haven't had the chance to hit LA. Unfortunately, so
you wouldn't make it. I'm just kidding. You I'm just kidding. There's a lot of beards.
All right,
over
guys,
there.
That's the end of this episode.
There's a lot of big beards over there.
Oh yeah, I gotta get mine regrown. Mine's looking a little weak, like yours.
Wimpy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only difference
is it's an East Side thing.
Bring us back.
There's so much more opportunity in LA. Like if you were to go to LA, you would be fine because you could be working on something every single day of the week.
Right,
There are shows that film Tuesday through Sunday, so you can have a job 7 days a week. in Los Angeles, whereas it's, again, just lack of opportunity in Florida, I think.
Speaking of Florida, you've been here for a little bit, right?
Yeah, I came down during the pandemic
During the
in
pandemic,
2020
okay.
from New York.
I remember hearing about your arrival.
Really?
No.
Okay.
No,
I was
I'm
like,
just kidding.
what?
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You're really well known in these parts.
I
No,
guess, yeah. Oh my gosh.
We're glad to have you here. though.
Yeah, so I mean, just briefly, kind of, how was that transition, and maybe a little bit of why, if it's,
Yeah,
if you wanna share
well,
that.
I think, again, this was the naivete that people had at the beginning of COVID. So I had a return flight booked like a month later. I was going back to New York. All my stuff was there. I came with one
one little
travel
bag.
size suitcase. Yeah, like, of course, a month later, I'm
Yeah.
at Goodwill, like, oh my God, I need clothes. Like, I can't, I don't even have, I brought one pair of shorts because
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be here. And over time, still had my apartment in New York. My roommate and I continued to pay rent in New York.
Oh, wow.
That's insane.
Yeah, through
Yeah.
September. Just for a vacant apartment. I can't even imagine going back in there, like the roaches that must have been like inhabiting the place at that point. But, kind of transitioned, and because I think I was sort of in between for a while, it took me a bit to sort of like sink into Florida. But I really like it now. I think if I thought about moving back for a while, I was very hardcore. Like, told everyone, I didn't even play on my volleyball team this year or this season in the winter because I was like, oh, sorry, moving back to New York in January. But for a lot of reasons, I stayed. I like the film community in Florida. It's not as big, so you tend to run into a lot of the same people that and I think through that there's a lot more collaboration.
Well, I think you bring up some good points. So filmmaking, it's a team sport, right? And I love trying to break down or re-engineer how certain movies are made. And you can see that, like Adam Sandler, he has his own little clique of people that he continually works with.
Yeah, Happy Madison Productions.
Christopher Nolan, like a lot of very successful filmmakers, they have their teams. And so I think there is a certain benefit to working in a smaller community where you can develop really intimate relationships with your coworkers. And also, that idea of, you move out to LA or Atlanta and you're a nobody, it's a huge ocean, whereas, you start in a little, community where there's not as many incentives or amenities, these big shows or big movies there, and you can become intimately a part of something. You can take a leadership role and you can shift a community into a style of filmmaking or that you would really like to see. So I think that there's pros and cons. You have there's bigger opportunity in LA and Atlanta, but for different reasons. So
Yeah.
what do you you clearly you came here, you've been here for 2 years, and do you think you would have been able to have the same mobility in LA or New York as you've found here?
Probably not, no. I think it's a little unfortunate that, because we don't have massive incentives in Florida, that's why a lot of these bigger projects and TV shows that are mainstream network shows go to Atlanta because they have the incentive to back it. But I have always, if I could spend the rest of my life only doing indie films forever, sign me up. So I really like the indie film medium. So for that reason, I think you can accomplish a lot more in Florida with, with a smaller budget. So that's why I think it's I think it's a miracle every time a film gets made. But I do think it's, a 1% easier here. And because of that, it's, like you said, it's a lot of small fish in a small pond.
Yeah.
You kind of hit on there, kind of finding success here in the indie market. And if you could, obviously that's what you'd like to do, as you just said. Let me just repeat back what you just said.
Yeah.
No, but that being said, what is success to you in terms of as an actor, producer, writer, filmmaker?
Yeah, I think at this point it's just I'd like to be in a more financially comfortable place and solely pay for everything that I do through film.
Yeah.
Obviously the goal would be to be constantly writing and producing and creating films, feature films, which I'm sort of in development for right now. I haven't done a feature yet. That's kind of my next step.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
And my goal is to do it here in Florida, and because it's not a massive budget, it will be easier to sort of assemble the team and make it happen. But yeah, I think, it's easier to define success in Florida because you're not trying to afford $1 million home in Los Angeles, right? You're not trying to support a family on this very small income and constantly the hustle and the grind game. I mean, I moved out when I was 17, so I've been on that game for, living in LA, and I think at one point I had 5 jobs in New York when I lived there. And the pace of Florida allows you to sort of slow down and reassess and still be, grinding. You still have to.
Well, it's like it's back to mobility. I have a handful of friends that are out in LA and New York, and it's just like you said, it's so expensive to live out there that unless you come from abundance, you don't have the time because you're working all these different jobs that pulls you away, and then in the time you do have, you're exhausted. And then, even though the level of expertise is higher, you have to deal with the rigmarole of finding people that happen to be available on the times that you are, and then you have to come up with the location fees or whatever. So I almost feel like, as a filmmaker, depending upon what you're, if you just want to work as a union member and have a steady job, then it's just move to Atlanta or LA. But if you want to be a filmmaker, the director or the producer, it really, I think, is advantageous to be in a smaller community to get, a few indie features on your belt that are whatever, $10,000, $20,000, and then use that as a platform, as a stepping stone, to kids, because everybody knows in this industry when you've been in it long enough that you're hired based off of what people can see and what you've done, and so unless you've met somebody that just happens to really, really, really like you, maybe you can make a jump from a PA to, being a producer if you have a very intimate relationship with that, but that hardly ever happens.
Yeah.
So generally speaking, it's,
Yeah. There's a lot more opportunity here for mentorship as well, because those sort of big dogs that are in LA and New York,
they're trying to pay for the $1 million mansion.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're grinding just as hard as everyone else on a different level.
Yeah.
But they're oftentimes, not necessarily. It's great that we do live in this age of technology where you can find their email on IMDb and just email them. Will you get a response? I don't know. I think there's a lack of accessibility in LA, whereas here I've just found it to be such a community of, people who are willing to go and have a coffee with you, or, sort of mentorship programs. So many of the filmmakers here. Yeah.
Florida's the new LA, guys. Or St. Pete.
Yes.
And on that
Yes.
note, Florida is the entire city of LA now.
Yeah.
We only have about 4 minutes left,
Perfect.
Unfortunately. So I just really wanted to quickly talk, for you to briefly talk on maybe your experience with your recent movie, Gloss, your recent short film that you were a writer, producer, actor in. If you want to just kind of hit on, what made that experience unique?
Yeah, so that was a collaboration with a production company that I actually had worked with in New York before. So it was the same director from my first short film. His name is Benjamin Murray.
Shout out Benjamin Murray.
Woo.
Benjamin Murray.
And then his business partner, Michael Christensen, and both of them.
Michael Christian. Sorry.
Both of them together are just kind of like a kismet, working together. And we decided we want to do this in Florida. We want to produce it in Florida. I think, again, I can't speak to you, AK. I haven't done a feature, but I think for a short,
Not yet.
was a massive undertaking. Like, if you look at our cast, we had 47 people in the cast.
I saw it. Even the montage. There's a montage in the movie.
Yeah.
and I hope you don't mind me
No,
speaking on it.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
But the montage
Say
in the
it.
movie that they just had these quick montage scenes of Mandy here, her character just having these bad dates.
Yeah.
And so already on that mount, you're having to do like probably an 8-scene montage or
Right.
or
Yeah, we had
7.
one full day that was just the montage. We
All these
had
actors coming
8
in
different
and out.
locations. So, and because of that, it was supposed
Yeah.
to be first dates. So it was 8 different guys who were actors as
Lucky
well.
you.
You know, yeah. But we wanted actors because we wanted it to be interactive and not just like someone, sitting
Yeah.
there and walking, and someone who was actually a real actor. So those were actually, I went out to talent that I said, it's not a speaking role, but it's fun.
Yeah.
But that alone was one full day. We did not have a big crew. A friend of mine, Dylan, who's an incredible first AC, I will use him on everything.
Last name?
Oh my God. Oh, I'm sorry, Dylan. Jeez.
Shout out Dylan.
Dylan.
Shout out Dylan, First AC.
Sorry
Yes.
about last name.
Yeah, no, it's escaping me right now, but
okay.
I've worked with him on a couple things before. Amazing guy. And that's what I'm saying. Like, you can really find this local talent here. He's up and coming, but he's brilliant. And all he did on that film was pull focus. I won't say all he did because, of course, he was lugging gear across the parking lot. But, like, he was the focus puller, and we couldn't have done it without him because we had
You hear that again?
4 people in the crew. We had like 4 or 5 people in the crew. We didn't have wardrobe. I was wardrobe and hair and makeup. And, even the one day we did, we did one day in the house that was a friend of mine donated her house for the day. And that was the Eugenie Bondurant and Mary Rachel Quinn, who played the 2 moms.
Shout out.
Eugenie Bondurant, Mary Rachel Quinn.
Who played the 2 moms in the film. We had one full day with them where we did all the house scenes, but it was like, if crew call was 6 a.m., we were there at 3 and just lining up the wardrobe, and it's,
Yeah, going through it.
from your experience, AK, when you're doing these
I don't know anything about
super,
filmmaking.
when you're doing these low budgets, it's like, how many hats are you wearing? So I think it was,
You just shave. You shave.
yeah, it was amazing. You
That's-
what? What did you say? You shaved?
Yeah,
You just
Yeah,
shave.
yeah, you just shave.
shave?
Apparently, that's the secret to
Yeah.
filmmaking.
You just shave.
Way to
Right.
interrupt.
Let me-
Probably a great,
Reminder, if you're making a film, keep razor blades in your car.
100%.
Well, wait. For shaving. Just want to iterate that.
Anyway, yeah, you're just wearing 100,000 hats.
Yeah.
And it's miraculous. But somehow we did it. My mom did the catering and made all the food, and
His mom did the
my
catering
mom
on
did
his
the
film.
catering on 115.
So
yeah.
shout
it.
out to moms.
Shout out to moms.
So unfortunately, we're just gonna have to
Wrap it
we're
up.
gonna have to wrap it up here. But yeah, it's good to hear that first ACs are necessary.
No,
and
it's great
ballers.
because now you can just do sound.
No. No. Mandy's seen me do sound before too.
Yeah, we all saw it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
enough.
Well, she wasn't there for. Oh yeah, never mind. Wow, I'm combining.
I know you
sets.
didn't recognize her because of my makeup artist, but she was actually
Anyway,
the actress in it.
that being
I was
said,
in that.
Wait, what? Oh my god, that was you. That's crazy. Anyway, unfortunately, we do have to wrap this episode up. As always, this has been Cinedome's Cinephiliac podcast. I'm your co-host, Daniel Scott DeJess, and this
AK guys.
founder of Kioro Pictures. And, of course, we can never forget our wonderful guest today, Mandy Mills. Mandy, where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm on IMDb. I'm on Facebook. I'm not a big social media person.
Okay.
But I am on Facebook, or, everyone's email's out in the world. Send me an email.
Well, thanks for coming here.